afternoon, my dear friends. It has been ages since I have taken any class. Now, organizing a seminar, a conference, or an online lecture series is all right. It has got its own thrill. You have to organize things, you have to maintain liaison with others, schedule the lectures, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, the academician in you languishes. I have been starving for the lack of this opportunity to talk to my students. Some of you have pointed out certain issues regarding your lack of clarity about the points of interconnection as well as intersection between gender and literature. So I planned today's meeting based on that. And in today's discussion, I will try to focus on just that, the points of interconnection as well as intersection between gender and literature. Now, before I go into the nitty-gritties about this interconnection, I have to tell you something about two things. Obviously, look at the title of today's presentation, that is the intersection and interconnection between gender on the one hand and literature on the other. Now, what is gender? Gender is basically a social categorization that divides humanity or other animals on the basis of certain features, their presence or absence. Now, we have to understand one thing, that gender is at once related to, but not synonymous with, sex. Whereas sex is biologically determined. A man or a woman, a male or a female rather. If I say man and woman, people will find faults with me. Okay, a male and female, they're born with certain physical as well as physiological differences. Penis, vagina, ovary, testes, and so on and so forth. We all know about this. Now, based on this, there are some ways in which the male of a species and the female of a species, especially the human species, because we have personalities, are differentiated. And that ultimately boils down to the categorization of gender. So we easily say, we always say, this has become a truism, that whereas sex is biologically determined, one is born with the sex, gender is socially constructed, culturally constructed, and one acquires the gender because one conforms to certain gender roles, one behaves in conformity to certain gender expectations, one in this way or thus acquires a gender identity, and that's how gender becomes one of the most important factors that determines how our lives are lived. Similarly, what is literature? Literature is a body of work. Well, I am not going to talk about Widdowson and Lacan. I am not going to talk about Zizek and Chomsky. I am a layman and I am going to give you the layman's definition of literature, as I do in the case of every category. See, literature is a body of work encapsulated in and through language that reflects reality, expresses experiences and emotions, narrates events, describes things or personages, speculates on ethical, moral, metaphysical, philosophical issues and dimensions, and communicates from the producer to the consumer. Literature can be oral or written. So based on that, the producer is either the speaker or the teller or the singer, and the consumer is the audience. Similarly, if it is written, then the producer is the writer and the consumer is the reader. But my question, my point of departure is, if it is so simple, if it can be so simplest. And today, my presentation will revolve around this question. Who is the producer? Who is the consumer? Who is the intermediary? How is text, a particular text, or how are texts produced? How are they consumed? And what happens in between? How are things perpetuated? How are things hushed up? And here, the unequal position of the genders, obviously based on, but not confined to sex or sexuality, will have to be discussed. And that is why I am going to talk about, obviously, the interconnections and the intersections between gender and literature. I don't know whether you have noticed or not. I have not yet talked about feminism. And many of you may find faults with me for that. I will come to feminism. I will come to masculinity studies. I will come to third gender. But, my dear friends, that will have to take a back seat, at least for the time. Now, I have said literature reflects reality. It's a loaded term, it's a nuanced concept. How does literature reflect reality? What reality does literature reflect? What is reality? How do we talk about reality? In order to talk about reality, we have to perceive reality. Then perception is circumscribed by perspective. And that perspective, how we look at things, that perspective is built up by our subject position, by ideological considerations. Obviously, the question of power has to come in. If we have power, we will try to perpetuate our hold on power. If we don't have power, we will try to create an agency. We will try to wrest power from the powerful to the powerless. So obviously we will see that when we talk about reality and its perception, the question of perspective, who is looking at what, and when, and where, and how, all these questions cannot be just wiped out, cannot be ignored. Why? Because perspective changes within and between cultures based on the operation of power. Okay. I have deliberately used certain verbs. For example, I have talked about reflecting reality. I have talked about expressing emotions and experiences. I have talked about narrating events and incidents. I have talked about describing personages and things. I have talked about speculating on metaphysical, religious, philosophical, and ethical issues and dimensions. Why have I used such verbs? Because these verbs are also nuanced. And this is what a student of literature in 2020 has to think about. Because based on the operation of power, based on who applies power and on whom is power applied, we come to the originally geometrical but increasingly theoretical concepts of center and margin or periphery. And we will have to see and show how our positionality at the center or on the margins or in between, these things actually, our location, our positionality depends, among other things, on our gender identities as well. Okay. Now they say any amount of definition will not do what discussion will clarify. So let us approach the points of intersection and interconnection between literature and gender with substantial, concrete examples. And my dear friends, here at this juncture, I will have to talk about feminism. I will have to, at a later time, talk about masculinity studies and so on and so on. We all know that in most parts of the world today, patriarchy is the dominant ideology and the system that governs society, that governs both production and consumption of culture through texts, narratives, and discourses. So, if that be the case, then obviously certain things need to be taken into account. Look at a novel. For example, you have all read, okay, in first semester, did you read Wuthering Heights? Someone like Gour of Gour may answer this, or anyone else. Have you read Wuthering Heights? I am talking to the first and second semester students.
No.
Look, so you have as a batch of students, you have read. Not one individual amongst you. Okay, Wuthering Heights. Okay, in your honors day, you have read something like Far from the Madding Crowd. Have you read it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Heard is Far from the Madding Crowd?
Yes, sir.
Some of you must have read
Yes,
it.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Think about the ways in which Bathsheba behaves. Think. Bathsheba at one time was a dependent. Then Bathsheba inherited a farm and became a farmer. Acquired much money, and with money, control over the lives of men and women, obviously, by extension. You will see that the roles and expectations that society had of and from Bathsheba, on the one hand, and the roles and expectations that Bathsheba had of and from herself changed with time and situation. And based on her roles, based on her behavior, society formed various opinions about her. Where does literature come in? Literature, in the case of this novel, Far from the Madding Crowd, represents the story of Bathsheba. Who writes this? Thomas Hardy, a male writer. So based on this, ultimately, the way Bathsheba is looked upon intratextually by the other characters, intertextually by both the writer who created her and the readers who read about her. All these things are determined by, if on the one hand, by the textuality of literature, then on the other hand, by the considerations of gender and by implication sexuality. Okay. Let me talk about one work by Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. Here, hypothetically, Virginia Woolf talks about an imaginary sister of William Shakespeare, who, had she been equally gifted as a writer, Virginia Woolf speculates on the likely fate of such a precocious female writer, a sister of or to William Shakespeare. Virginia Woolf posits and suspects that even if Shakespeare's sister were to be as gifted as Shakespeare himself, the sister, that is she, would not have made it big because society wouldn't have left her any chance to make it big. She wouldn't have a room of her own. She wouldn't have had opportunities and allowances that a Shakespeare could have. Okay, let's come forward by a few years and come to excuse me. The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. Look at the title, The Second Sex. She is talking about women. So what is the first sex in that case? The male, the man. And there, in this treatise, Simone de Beauvoir talks about the patriarchal nature of Western society in general and French society in particular. But here you have to understand, this version that Beauvoir gives us is itself circumscribed by time and place. What she says about the condition of women is itself determined by the time and the place. Then what does literature talk about? Literary works deal with men, with women, with their bodies, with their behaviors, with their social roles, both expected and accepted on the one hand, and unexpected and unacceptable on the other. Are you getting my point? I hope you are. We all know, we always talk about the domain of gender and literature as almost the exclusive precinct of feminist considerations and women's issues. I am by no stretch of the imagination denying that women in most cases get a raw deal. Women's issues are very important, I concede. The way the man represents a woman within the social space, the way male writers, the reason why I am talking about male writers first and foremost is because most of the writers are male. Most of the writers are male. Why? Number one, they had the opportunity of education, the opportunity of financial stability and independence, and the social patronage whereby they could write and read more frequently, more extensively than their female counterparts. On the other hand, we will all see how women are often kept at the margins. They are denied the opportunity to read and write. They lack the financial wherewithal to express themselves, to preserve that expression in terms of written literature, for example, to circulate it, and at the same time to determine readers and readings. When I started my research on Kamala Das, I was baffled to see two things. Number one, that according to most of the male critics, Kamala Das was only peddling sex and sexuality. She was called a confessional poet, as if she has committed a crime and has to confess. Why am I saying this? Because the root of confessional poetry in US was in the collective sense of guilt that the Second World War and the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki had engendered in the American side, the US side. I was surprised to see that Kamala Das is or was predominantly seen as a woman of endless female hungers. Then when I started reading her poetry, I became amused. I saw that in most anthologies, only a few poems of Kamala Das were anthologized, and those poems were usually on sexually explicit themes. Why? Because sex sells well, pornography sells well. That's why the concept of the erotica clung to Kamala Das. And poems such as Stone Age, Gino, and so on and so forth, love posters, they were increasingly being anthologized. But when I read most of the works of Kamala Das, poetry at least, I found out that she has written many other poems which are sadly never anthologized by other editors, most of whom are male. For readers, most of whom were male at that time. And I understood one very simple thing, that representation is not only the way you describe things, but also based on the way you select things for placing it before the public. This is what we have to understand. Now, when we talk about gender and literature, we will see that in most cases we are talking about gender roles, gender representations, gender expectations, and gender identity. We have to talk about gender marginality and gendered marginality as well. We have to talk about gender issues and gendered issues as well. Gender issues such as particular genders try to be concerned with or often are concerned with certain issues. Women are concerned with healthcare, education, safety and security, the environment, whereas in many cases, male readers, male writers are interested in war and militarism, adventures and risks, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about gender roles and gender expectations, as they affect literature and as they are represented in and through literature, we have to understand one very basic thing. And that is what I really want to drill into you. That not only women, but men also are victims of patriarchy. How? Let us think about one text. Say, which one shall I talk about? Yes, things fall apart. Okonko. Those of you who have read Okonko's story may remember that Ikime Puna, the boy who was brought from a distant village as some kind of punishment to the clan, this boy calls Okonko father. This boy has lived for a number of years in the household of Okonko, and then when the oracle decrees that this boy has to be killed, Okonko is requested, or rather required by the patriarchal society of Mopia to accompany Ikimefuna and his would-be assassins. Why? Because Ikimefuna has to be sacrificed. Ikimefuna has to be killed. And if you read that section, you will see that Okonko was feeling very bad because he had begun to conceive some kind of a paternal liking for this boy. So when the first man tries to stab Ikimefuna and Ikimefuna shouts out, "My father, they have killed me." And the author describes, Okonko was fearful of being called weak or thought as weak. So in that fear, he killed Ikimefuna. So often, even men are forced to resort to violence that they would not have otherwise done by the dictates of patriarchy, by the dictates of hegemonic masculinity. Patriarchy operates in terms of compulsory heterosexuality in most cases and an unequal hierarchical relationship between the men and their female counterparts. And you will see that literature describes not only what ought to be, but in most cases what is. So obviously, reflection and representation go hand in hand, and one is mediated by the other. And herein, certain issues come up. You remember, feminist critics have often talked about 4 things. While talking about women's writing, they have talked about biological, linguistic, psychoanalytic, as well as cultural dimensions of women's writing. Let me, for the sake of our discussion, borrow this and discuss it in terms of the whole gender hierarchy and the representation of that gender hierarchy in and through literature. First thing we have to understand is there are biological differences. and biological specificities that set women apart from men. Things like the monthly cycle, things like childbirth, pregnancy, lactation, all these things are unique to women. So how the woman's body is represented in literature is one of the concerns of feminist critics. Even if we are not feminist critics, even if we are lay readers, we have to understand how the physical specificities of men and women determine and in most cases control the way we look at the world, the way we produce literature, as well as the way we consume literature. Then comes linguists. We all know about the words about chairman and chairperson. Milkman and milkmaid. We all know about Aparna Sen's protest when she was called Sampadika. She used to write Sampada. So in most cases you will see that language has not only delegated different places to men and women, but also very, very subtly and shrewdly keeps each in his or her own place. Then obviously there are certain things that are unique to being a woman or a man. So the psychoanalytical perspective also becomes handy in our understanding of the intersections between literature and gender. Similar is the case with cultural dimension of this book. Certain things are expected of women, certain things are not expected of women. But my question is, similar is the case of women, of men as well. We are often told to have 3 M's: money, muscles, and motor cars. Based on our possession of these things, we are considered to be acceptable members of the male society, and we are also considered eligible partners by the womankind in many cases. Why? Because both men and women are victims of patriarchy. Their ideas are formed by the dictates and practices of patriarchy. Their ideas are formed on the basis of their gender identity, which is both shaped and soaked up by sexual considerations as well. Let me, at this juncture, talk about another text that we have chosen as part of our paper on gender and literature. That is Angela Carter's 1977 novel, The Passion of New Eve. It tells the tale of a misogynistic British professor, Evelyn, who is often called Eve, very dichotomously. Now, this Evelyn, he uses women in a perfunctory, peremptory, and disrespectful manner. He ditches Leila. He has nothing to say to the unnamed girl with whom he goes to the theater and who performs oral sex on him. But ultimately, Evelyn is taught a very sultry lesson. He is paid back in his own coin. When he goes to the desert from New York, he is kidnapped by a masked woman. He is brought to Beulah, a strange town where mother resides. Mother is the ultra female. Mother rapes him, collects his semen, and then performs a sex change operation on him. He often escapes. He is abused, raped, sexually dominated by others, like Zero, the man whose eighth wife he has to become. So ultimately, after his sex has been changed, he has to perceive and evaluate the world outside from a changed perspective. Here, in another context, I may be reminded, or you may be reminded, of Tiresias. But whereas in the case of Tiresias, there were certain positive angles to his ability of becoming men or women. Here in this context, in the case of Evelyn, because this is forced upon him, nothing is voluntary. Ultimately, this change in sex topsy-turvies the male chauvinist views of Evelyn, and ultimately he has to give their due respect to women. The third text, if you remember, is Dance Like a Man by Mahesh Datta. You know, here Jairaj, the male, is imposed upon, suppressed and marginalized both by his male, this is important, male father, Amritlal, but also by his, again I am stressing the word, female wife, Lata. So, you know, if the dictate is done like a man, which on one level at least seems paradoxical. Why? Because people like the patriarch Amritlal has thought that number one, only prostitutes should dance. Number two, if women have to dance, they have to change the priorities and also change the educational regimen, the training regimen. Similarly, Jairaj the dancer is imposed upon. His career is sacrificed at the altar of Ratna's ambition. And the way Lata has grown up under the tutelage of her mother, Ratna, Lata is going to be a second Ratna, an image or replica of the mother in and on the coffin. So obviously, dancing like a man, if it is for the female, obviously it will have to be based on deception, like that of Portia or Vada, whereby they impose upon society by assuming male dress. On the other hand, you will see dance like a man may mean at least that Jairaj is supposed to dance not like his own effeminate guru, but become more manly, if not as a dancer, at least as a human being. The fourth text that is on your syllabus relates to the selected poems of Kamaladas that I have already discussed. Sufficing to say that, again, gender roles and gender expectations become very, very predominant. Why? You think about a poem like, which one is there? Yes, very pure peril insanity. The unique case of motherhood and rearing of a child. Then the dance of the eunuchs who inhabit the twilight zone between male and the female. Similarly, you think about a poem like the Millennials That Will Reply, where the woman poet, this is important, the woman poet talks about the attitudinal difference between that of her grandmother, who could love and be a companion without any self-interest on the one hand, and her male lovers, those thieving red brown hands. They were like arsonists. Warmth was never their aim. So what I am trying to point out, my dear friends, is the fact that when we talk about the points of intersection and interconnection between gender and literature, we have to understand that the intersections occur in terms of many things. Writing, reading and reception, writing on the one hand, and reading and reception on the other. Similarly, there are also other issues like interest, like money power. All these things have to be taken into consideration. For example, you think about it. You look at, you watch a film like Bobby. You will see the female body is the object of the male gaze. But if you go forward to a film like Savaria, you will see that the male body is also objectified, commodified. Why? Because by the time women have become important members of the audience, they have the power to buy tickets, to watch movies, and to direct opinions. So, I am leaving much of the discussion for the question answer session. And I want this session to be as lively as it possibly can. So with this discussion, let me end. And I throw this session open for any kind of blow. Any question or comment? Yes, Gaurav. Can you hear me? So come on. Any query?
Is there anybody who?
Hello, sir. I'm Shayan.
Ball.
স্যার বলছি ফেমিনিস্টরা যে মানে অনেক ফেমিনিস্ট টেক্সটে দেখেছি যে একটা সেপারেট স্পেসের কথা বলে, যে সেই স্পেসেই একমাত্র মানে ফিমেলদের ভয়েসটাকে এক্সপ্রেস করা সম্ভব। এটা কি একটা সেপারেট আইডিওলজি মানে কথা বলছে না, মানে যেখানে ইকুয়ালিটির কথা বলছে সেখানে ফেমিনিস্টরা অনেক সময় চাইছে একটা সেপারেট স্পেসকে প্রেফার করতে। তো স্যার এটা একটু বুঝতে পারছি না, মানে একদিকে ইকুয়ালিটি আর একদিকে একটা সেপারেট আইডিওলজি।
আচ্ছা আমি একটা কথা বলছি, ঠিক আছে দাঁড়া। আচ্ছা একটা কথা বলছি, একটু আমরা একটু ব্যাপকতর ওয়ার্ল্ড পলিটিক্স এর কথা বলি। আচ্ছা বাংলাদেশ কেন হয়েছিল? পাকিস্তানের থেকে বাংলাদেশ কেন হয়েছিল বলতো? কারণটা হচ্ছে বাঙালিরা পাকিস্তানে ইন দ্য ফেস অফ উর্দু ন্যাশনালিজম and overt Islamification, the predominantly secular Bengali culture was having a rough time to cope. সেই জন্য ওরা সেপারেট স্পেসের কথা চেয়েছিল, একটা আলাদা কান্ট্রি চেয়েছিল। ইয়েস অর নো? এটা হ্যাঁ কি না?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
ইয়েস স্যার।
কি সায়ন, এটা ঠিক কি না? এটুকু ঠিক তো?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, ইয়েস স্যার।
আচ্ছা তাহলে এবার একটা জিনিস ভাব, উইমেন যখন বলছে যে সেপারেট স্পেসের কথা বলছে আর রুম অফ ওয়ান্স ওনের কথা বলছে, সেটা সেপারেটিস্ট আইডিওলজি কেন বলছিস? পেট্রিয়ার্কি যখন একটা হেজিমনিক হায়ারার্কি তৈরি করে দিচ্ছে, যেখানে কিনা খালি উইমেন না, ইভেন certain kinds of men also feel victimized. They are not given their due space, due respect, due independence. তারা যদি আলাদা স্পেস চায়, এটা সেপারেটিস্ট আইডিওলজি বলে কেন ভাবছি আমরা? আমরা তো প্রত্যেকেই কোনো একটা জায়গায় আমাদের ভয়েসটা হার্ড হোক, আমাদের কনসার্নস গুলো টেকেন ইনটু কনসিডারেশন হোক, এই জিনিসটা তো আমরা সবাই চাই। এরপর নেক্সট কোয়েশ্চেন।
স্যার হ্যাঁ অরবিন্দ।
ওকে
স্যার বলছিলাম যে একটা কোশ্চেন স্যার, যে how women do project themselves completely in their writing if there is no politics?
Okay, repeat the question.
Yes sir.
Repeat the question.
How women do project themselves completely in their writing if there is no politics, what are the measures that they may take to project themselves?
প্রশ্নটার মানে কি কিছু দাঁড়ালো? প্রথম কথা তুই বলছিস হাউ ক্যান উইমেন প্রজেক্ট দেমসেলস। প্রথম কথা হচ্ছে যে উইমেন ক্যান প্রজেক্ট দেমসেলস if they have the right to write, if they are given the chance to speak, voice their concerns, express their individualities, and at the same time given the chance to be different. When we talk about gender equality, this does not mean that women and men should be the same. Their behaviors may be different, their attitudes may be different, their needs may be different, their conditions may be different, but whatever be their behavior, whatever be their attitude, whatever be their need, men's needs and women's needs, men's behavior and women's behavior, men's priorities and women's priorities, all these things should be given equal consideration, equal importance. So, women can project themselves if they are given the chance to project themselves. Why? Till now, we have not given them the chance to project themselves in the way they should be given. Just as we have not given the chance to many of our quote-unquote male counterparts to be and become, to practice their individuality, their identity, their preferences, their orientation, and so on and so forth. So the politics is in the representation. Because literature brings before you a domain of representation. The politics is in the representational aspect of the thing. Next question, please. Okay.
অরবিন্দু
তোর আর কটা প্রশ্ন আছে?
স্যার এটাই স্যার, আর নেই স্যার।
হ্যাঁ বল।
আর নেই স্যার।
আচ্ছা হ্যাঁ, তারপরে আর কার কি প্রশ্ন আছে শুনি? কি হলো পলাশ, কোনো প্রশ্ন নেই কেন?
হ্যাঁ স্যার বলছি স্যার।
একজন
হ্যাঁ স্যার। স্যার বলছি জেন্ডার ইকুয়ালিটির ক্ষেত্রে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা তো খুব স্ট্যান্ড করে মাচ সিগনিফিকেন্টলি। সো উইমেনদের কি পার্টিকুলার কোনো ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ আছে এই বিষয়ে স্যার যদি কিছু বলতেন।
আচ্ছা, এই যে ওমেন্স ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ এবং ওমেন্স রাইটিং,
ইয়েস স্যার,
এরকম কোনো আলাদা স্পেসিফিক কিছু নেই, কেননা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ইজ equally the heritage of the male and the female. But there are certain issues that women want to project. There are certain linguistic features that women have, certain stylistic peculiarities that women exhibit. So that is why there is a move towards, but not an arrival at, either the feminine poetic or the feminine linguistic. feminist poetics, feminist linguistics. এটা একটা মুভমেন্ট আছে এই দিকে, কিন্তু অ্যারাইভাল অ্যাট বলে কোনো জিনিস হয় না। It's a process whereby women wants to possess the wherewithal for expressing themselves, their priorities, their needs, their desires, and so on and so forth. আর কারো প্রশ্ন?
স্যার আমি মহতাদিন।
স্যার আমি
হ্যালো স্যার, আমি মহতাদিন বলছি।
বলো। বলো।
মহতাদিন বলছি স্যার। আজকে এই মডার্নিতে এসে আমরা অনেকটাই পথ অতিক্রম করে এসেছি ফ্রম দ্য পাস্ট। তো আমি বলতে চাইছি যে আমরা কি এখনো বর্তমানে পরিপূর্ণরূপে জেন্ডার ডিসক্রিমিনেশন ওভারকাম করতে পেরেছি? মানে কি মতামত আপনার এটা?
জেন্ডার ডিসক্রিমিনেশন যদি ওভারকাম করতেই পারতাম, তাহলে এখনো এই যে লকডাউনে
শুনতে পেলেন?
স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্যাল ডেটা বলছে যে লকডাউনে ডোমেস্টিক ভায়োলেন্স, ক্রাইম এগেইনস্ট উইমেন উইদিন দ্য ফ্যামিলিয়াল ডোমেইন বেড়ে গেছে। তাহলে জেন্ডার ডিসক্রিমিনেশন কিভাবে কমপ্লিটলি আমরা ওভারকাম করব? তাহলে এই ওভারকাম করার জন্য কি দরকার? এ মোর ইকুইটেবল ওয়ার্ল্ড অর্ডার, more aware public opinion, and a more united front, not only from women but also from men. তাহলে এখানে গোটা সোশ্যোলজিক্যাল টার্মটা কেবলমাত্র ইউটিলিটেরিয়ান হবে না, হবে এথিক্যাল। কিন্তু সেটা তো এখনো হয়নি মহতাদিন। হয়নি বলে আমরা যদি পেসিমিস্টিক ওয়েতে ভাবি হয়নি তাহলে হবে না, তাহলে কোনোদিনই হবে না। হয়নি তাই হতে হবে। Because we have not yet overcome it, that means we need to overcome it. That means we need to try to overcome it. And that process of trying to overcome it is going to be an unending process, because power divides just as power corrupts. Power divides communities, genders, on the basis of the powerful and the powerless. The powerful always tries to perpetuate power, and the powerless tries to wrest the power from the powerful for themselves. Any other question, please? Binoy asks a question.
Sir, Binoy asked a question. Sir, does the patriarchal attitude still in our society? If yes, then how much it is influencing those who are the victims?
Patriarchal attitude is still prevalent in our societal intercourse. Whatever we do, whatever we say, patriarchy has a great influence on this. And the victims have to suffer from this. The second portion ta ki bollo jano question ta,
if yes, then how much it is influencing those
how
who are
much
the
it
victims?
is hobe na, ইংরেজিটা ঠিকঠাক লেখো, how much is it হবে, how much is it influencing what?
Those who are the
Ball?
If yes, then how much
Is it?
It is influencing those who are the victims.
Obviously, those who are the victims are influenced because they are powerless. Victims are victimized because they are powerless. And victims also victimize because victimization is a proactive procedure. যদি আমি তোকে ভিক্টিমাইজ করি তাহলে সুযোগ পেলে তুই আরেকজন কাউকে ভিক্টিমাইজ করার চেষ্টা করবি। কারণ ভিক্টিমাইজেশন gives a vindictive edge to the victim. So in order to avoid that, victimization should stop. আর কোন প্রশ্ন?
স্যার আমি সায়ন, একটা প্রশ্ন আছে স্যার।
কে?
স্যার সায়ন।
হ্যাঁ বল।
স্যার বলছি, আপনি যে বললেন যে অপর্ণা সেনের ওই সম্পাদিকা বলাতে একটা ক্ষোভ প্রকাশ করেছিলেন, তো মানে এই সম্পাদক আর সম্পাদিকার মধ্যে যে বাইনারাইজেশনটা, তো যদি আমরা ম্যান আর ওম্যান এই দুটো ওয়ার্ডকে দেখি, মানে কোনো চাইল্ড বার্থের পরই তো মানে সায়েন্টিফিক ডিসকোর্স সেটাকে ডিটারমিন করে দেয় যে কে মেল কে ফিমেল। তো যদি অপর্ণা সেন ওই দুটো ওয়ার্ড নিয়ে ক্ষোভ প্রকাশ করেন যে তাকে সম্পাদিকা বলা হয়েছে, তাহলে কি এই সায়েন্টিফিক ডিসকোর্সের ম্যান ওমেন এই বাইনারিটাকেও কি আমাদের মানে নষ্ট করে দিতে হবে? তাহলে কি মানে একটা ইকুয়ালিটির কথা হবে?
না, প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে এই যে এটা বলার কারণটা ছিল কিরকম, আমি তোমাকে বলছি। কেন চেয়ারম্যান থেকে চেয়ারপারসন বলছি, তার কারণটা হচ্ছে তুই দেখ, খেয়াল কর, কুইজ মাস্টার বলি তো আমরা, কুইজ মাস্টারে অপোজিট ওয়ার্ড কি হবে তাহলে? কুইজ মিস্ট্রেস, ফেমিনিন জেন্ডার কি হবে? কুইজ মিস্ট্রেস কথাটা তো অনেক রকম মানে। তাহলে একটা ব্যাপারে যে সম্পাদিকা বলে, অ্যাক্টরের জায়গায় অ্যাক্ট্রেস বলে, এই যে একটা ডিফারেন্স করা হলো, ডিফারেন্সিয়েশন হলো, এইটার মাধ্যমে এই ওমেনের মধ্যে লেস অফ আ ম্যান, লেসার ম্যান, এই যে ব্যাপারটা আমাদের ভাবনায় এবং আমাদের ভাষায় এতদিন ধরে রয়ে গেছে, এটার বিরুদ্ধে কথা বলার জন্যই উনি কিন্তু সম্পাদক আর সম্পাদিকা নিয়ে প্রশ্নটা তুলেছিলেন। এটাকে কিন্তু কেবলমাত্র সম্পাদক আর সম্পাদিকা এই দুটো শব্দের জন্যই ক্ষোভ, তা কিন্তু ভাবলে চলবে না। She was trying to point out a larger discrimination, a discriminatory politics involved in the differentiation between actor and actress, সম্পাদক and সম্পাদিকা, লেখক and লেখিকা। Are you getting my point?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Okay. আর কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন? কি ব্যাপার আজকে এত কে? গৌরব, ওকে। Okay. Actually, there are many issues. Number one, there is one of the issues is healthcare, gender and healthcare. Second one is gender and environment. That gender and healthcare, then gender and environment. How? That is why ecofeminism is becoming very important nowadays. Gender and peace and conflicts. Because in a war situation, women are the worst victims in many cases, along with children. So in gender studies, in the domain of gender studies, environmental issues, educational issues, healthcare issues, and the question of militarism, war, conflict. These are the first areas that gender studies is trying to negotiate. Any other question?
স্যার পলাশ বলছি
বল।
স্যার একটা লাস্ট কোশ্চেন, জানি না ঠিক কিনা, তবে মনে হচ্ছে বলি। বলছি স্যার ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ নিয়ে, ফিমেল ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ এটা নিয়ে বলছি যে এই যে ফিমেলদের যে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা, এটাকে কি আমরা বলতে পারি যে এটা ম্যান মেড অর ম্যান কনস্ট্রাকশন?
ফিমেল ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা ম্যানমেড কিনা?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
অ্যাকচুয়ালি এই জন্যই তো ফিমেলরা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের একটা পার্টিকুলার ফর্ম চাইছে, যে জায়গাটায় মেন ডমিনেশনকে তারা রেজিস্টার করে কাউন্টার করতে পারে। Because the way we look at reality through language is so much determined by gender consideration and the gender prism. Women are trying to wrest the initiative from their male counterparts. Man-made মানে কি? Man-made এর গল্পটা দেখ। Man-made মানে কি? ভাষার ব্যাপারটায়, ভাষা কিভাবে প্রযুক্ত হবে, হাউ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ উইল অপারেট, সেটা ইন মোস্ট কেসেস যেহেতু লেখক হিসাবে, পাঠক হিসেবে, বক্তা হিসেবে পুরুষরা অনেকটাই নিয়ন্ত্রণ করেছে এখনো। বিকজ হাউ language will operate has been determined to a large extent by the male as reader, as writer, as speaker, and also as thinker. সেই জন্যই ওমেনের ভিজিবিলিটি যেমন কম, ঠিক সেইভাবে ওমেনের পাওয়ারটাও অনেক কম। এবং দিস ইজ দ্য ইমব্যালেন্স that feminist critics, gender critics try to set right. And that is why step by step feminism is today taking cognizance of difference, not only between man and woman, but also between woman and woman. That is why feminism today wants to go step by step from empowerment to equality. Not equality in one breath or in one step. First empowerment, then equality. আর কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন?
স্যার ছোট
হ্যাঁ ঠিক
স্যার আমার নিরুপম বলছি একটা
হ্যাঁ
question।
করবি। আচ্ছা মেয়েরা কি ব্যাপার, কি মেয়েরা প্রশ্ন করবে না কেন? আচ্ছা হ্যাঁ নিরুপম
বলছি স্যার, মানে একটু অন্য টাইপের এটা কোশ্চেনটা। তো
কি অন্য টাইপের লোক অন্য টাইপের কোশ্চেন করবি, ঠিক আছে বল।
তো মানে ধরুন কোন একটা কমন ফিমেল যখন সোসাইটিতে জাস্ট এমার্জ করছে, তখন ও যখন মানে একটা ভালো পলিটিক্যাল পাওয়ারে যাচ্ছে, তখন ও কিন্তু ভুলে যাচ্ছে সবকিছু। মানে অনেক সময় দেখা যায় ধরুন আমরা কোনো একটা পলিটিক্যাল এরকম কোনো ফিমেলকে ভালো জায়গায় সমাজে পৌঁছালাম, তারপরে গিয়ে ও ফিমেলের ব্যাপারে কিছু করছে না, কোনো কাজ করছে না, এবং ফিমেল হওয়া সত্ত্বেও যেরকম ভাবে একটা মেল লিডার বা পলিটিশিয়ান যেরকম ভাবে কাজ, মানে যেরকম ভাবে করে, ও সেরকম ভাবেই নেগলেক্ট করছে ব্যাপারগুলোকে। যেমন টপ গার্লস এর মার্লিন আছে এরকম, ও যখন পাওয়ারে চলে যায় ওর মাকে ভুলে যাচ্ছে। তো এই
তার কারণটা হচ্ছে এইখানেই হচ্ছে ডিভিয়াসনেস অফ পেট্রিয়ার্কি। একটা বড় পাওয়ারফুল সিস্টেম কিভাবে কোয়ার্স এবং কোঅপ্ট করে সেটাই দেখার। যখন সে ওপরে চলে যাচ্ছে, একটা যখন ছিল না, দেখ পাওয়ারলেসনেসের একটা পাওয়ার আছে। ডু ইউ আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড? ইফ ইউ আর পাওয়ারলেস ইউ হ্যাভ গট নাথিং টু লুজ। সেটা একটা পাওয়ার আছে, এটা মানিস তো? মানিস কি মানিস না?
ইয়েস স্যার।
এবার সেই সময় কিন্তু কোনো রেসপন্সিবিলিটি নেই, যেহেতু পাওয়ার নেই তাই দ্য ক্যাপাসিটি টু হার্ম অর মেন্ট এটাও নেই, সেই জন্য রেসপন্সিবিলিটি নেই। যেই মুহূর্তে তার রেসপন্সিবিলিটি হয়ে যাচ্ছে তখনই কিন্তু সে অনেকগুলো জঞ্জিরে, অনেকগুলো বন্ডে বাধা পড়ে যাচ্ছে। সো ইট ইজ দ্য সিস্টেম দ্যাট আলটিমেটলি co-opts the rebel and forces her to conform to the status quo. Understood?
ইয়েস স্যার।
আর কারো
স্যার আমি অরবিন্দ স্যার। স্যার বলছি যেই কোশ্চেনটা করছি স্যার আমি জানি না ঠিকঠাক হবে কিনা, তাও স্যার বলতে ইচ্ছা হলো আর কি। স্যার করবো স্যার?
কর।
স্যার বলছি যে ফেমিনিজমকে স্যার উইদিন পেট্রিয়ার্কি মুভমেন্ট বলা যেতে পারে, যেটা সৃষ্টি হয়েছে উইদিন পেট্রিয়ার্কি, কিন্তু আউটসাইড পেট্রিয়ার্কি যখন যাবে সেটাকে এক্সট্রিম ফর্ম বলতে পারবো স্যার? আর সেই দিকে যখন মানে সেই দিকে যেতে গেলে কি কি করতে পারে বা কি কি জিনিস হতে পারে স্যার?
মাসির ভোগ থেকে মামা হতো না।
না স্যার।
ব্যাপার হচ্ছে যে এই যে পেট্রিয়ার্কি থেকে বেরিয়ে গিয়ে একটা আলাদা ফর্ম, একটা সময় তো মেট্রিয়ার্কি ছিল, ম্যাট্রিলিনি ছিল, তারপরে ফিজিক্যাল ফোর্স, পাওয়ার, স্ট্রেংথ, এটা একদিক দিয়ে, আর হচ্ছে কিছু ফিজিওলজিক্যাল ডিফারেন্সেস। এই কারণে পেট্রিয়ার্কি has emerged to be a more dominant system. এই জন্য almost the entire world is now being ruled by patriarchy. তাই ফেমিনিজম যেটা, সেটা কিন্তু এটা একটা কাউন্টার ডিসকোর্স হতে পারে, কিন্তু এটা একটা এক্সট্রিম ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট সেটআপে গেলে কি হবে এটা তো এখনো স্পেকুলেশনের স্তরে, নোবডি নোজ। সেটা নিয়ে কিছুটা আলোচনা আছে তোমার প্যাশন অফ নিউ লিভে। আন্ডারস্টুড?
হ্যাঁ স্যার। হ্যাঁ স্যার বুঝতে পারছি।
আর কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন?
স্যার ছোট অনেকক্ষণ ধরে মনে একটা প্রশ্ন করছে।
কে ছোট?
হ্যাঁ
বলো।
Can we deal the passion of Eve from queer perspective?
Why not? This text has been queried. This text has been read from the queer perspective. No problem.
Queer
You think?
queer মানে
you
queer
think-
theory সম্বন্ধে একটু বেশ মানে একটু বললে গেলে ভালো হতো, আমার একটু বুঝতে অসুবিধা হচ্ছে queer theoryটা।
এটা আজকে না, এটা নিয়ে আরেকদিন আলোচনা করবো। কেন আমি ওইটা এখন মানে ওই প্যান্ডোরাস বক্সটা খুলবো না, কেন তাহলে আমার এখনো আরো 2 ঘন্টা সময় লাগবে বা 1 ঘন্টা অ্যাটলিস্ট। এটা নিয়ে পরে আরেকদিন আলোচনা। এলজিবিটি কিউ নিয়ে একদিন আরেকটা ক্লাস নেওয়া যাবে না, ঠিক আছে?
ঠিক আছে স্যার, ঠিক আছে।
কেননা ব্যাপারটা একটু বোঝার চেষ্টা কর। এটা নিয়ে আজকে যদি কথা বলতে হয় তাহলে অনেক কথা বলতে হবে। এই যে
হ্যাঁ, স্যার।
কম্পালসারি হেটেরোসেক্সুয়ালিটি নিয়ে যে প্রশ্নটা চলে এসছে, এই যে বাইনারির গল্প, মানে এটা কি বাইনারি, মানে কি তুই সবাইকে ফোর্স করছিস তো, তাই না? সবাই একরকম হবে
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
তা তো হতে পারে না। তাহলে এই জায়গাটায় যে জেন্ডার ইকুয়ালিটি বল বা সেক্সুয়াল ইকুয়ালিটি মানে কি, সেক্সুয়াল ইকুয়ালিটি মানে কিন্তু not only the equality between the sexes, it is also equality between the various orientations, sexual orientations and desires. আচ্ছা, আর কারো কোনো
Yes,
প্রশ্ন? হ্যালো, না না, ঠিক আছে। আর কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন?
স্যার মনে হচ্ছে আর কারো প্রশ্ন নেই।
আচ্ছা, এই সমাজশ্রী,
Yes, sir.
acha, if there are no other questions, then we will have to call it a day now. Thank you. I hope you have been able to understand a little bit of what I have talked about. And if I have talked trash, obviously you will have to excuse me for that. I hope at least I have enjoyed this class after a long time. So hope to meet you again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.